All right, so often I hear the same story that people don't know how to say no or they say yes too often. And when I hear that, I'm actually thinking in my head, now that I've had a lot of practice with just things in my life, what I'm hearing is guilt. What I'm hearing is people feeling bad about the choices that they're making. And so my view with this is not the fact that you don't know how to say no, is the fact that you need to say, I'm okay and I'm a good person no matter what happens. I am a decent person. Um, and I am just well intentioned. I'm actually trying to do the right thing. And that is a wonderful, amazing thing. And I think that's where we need to take a step back and realize that you are just fine. Like you are doing the right thing often for you. Instead of feeling bad about saying no, what you're doing is you're making a choice and then you are basing how you feel about that choice based on the outcomes that actually happen. Right? We know in psychology people tend to do this. It's the outcome bias. Um, And what we should do instead is think in terms of, hey, at the time, was this seemingly a good option? Was this something that made me feel good inside for saying yes? And if that's the choice, right, if that's what you actually did, then that should be a wonderful thing for you. And I think you should sort of reflect on that, yeah, this is fan freaking tastic. And I did this. Now, there's one other thing that I think, and it's just like it's really shame based. We make a lot of decisions based on shame and fear, and all of those are very human emotions. And I make those things, and I'm processing. This is how I'm thinking about these things, right? I'm processing them. Is often we are thinking is that um, we're thinking that we make poor decisions when we're doing that. And instead of thinking like that, why don't we start thinking about maybe or in between or um yeah, this is just perfectly good. This is good enough. Like think of it in terms of those things. And when you're setting yourself up, right? Like you are thinking in your mind, this is often what happens, right? So you say yes, you're excited about it, then the outcome doesn't work out, and then you second guess it and you think like, oh man, I made all these crappy decisions and got a crappy outcome. Instead, think about why don't I just half-ass all of this, right? Like think in your mind, because half-assing is still going to be pretty darn good. You're still going to get it done. You half-ass this damn thing, get it done. You kind of maybe your way or you're in between your way to getting stuff done, and you're able to actually do those things and you feel good about it, right? Like you were thinking in terms of these rigid social standards, this rigid hierarchies that we often have, and it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like it matters well, I'm gonna tell you all of this. It all matters. It's all super crazy important, right? Like, I gotta tell you. So, I wrote a book, right? And the book was, I was thinking about how to actually build this thing as most efficiently and effectively as possible. Now, if I would sit down and write the book for the reciprocity project and physically write it like how I write academic papers, um, it would probably take me 15 years, probably if not more, right? It would be incredibly well researched, just, the same sort of thing. And then here's the thing, like it would take me forever to write this damn thing. My dissertation, which is 300 pages, my thesis for my PhD, was 300 pages. It literally took me 5 years of dedicated, well done work. But here's the thing. So I would have done that. And then to get it published, I would have to send it to different places and they'd all reject me. They would all reject me because that's the social structure that we live in, right? Like, I don't have, if I had highfalutin names behind me, all these kind of things, right? Like, okay, certain groups would probably accept it. And but for the most part, like what we're thinking about in terms of publishing, they would all reject it because I'm not some highfalutin thing. Now, if I was the CEO of IBM, or the CEO of I know that there's a couple of CEOs. I've read their books that they were the CEOs of large corporations, and then they go do something at GE or whatever, right? Then they write a book, and of course everybody reads the damn thing, and of course it's easy to get published, right? And somebody wants to actually read from what they're actually doing, but that's not you, right? That is not what you are going through, and so for me, I do feel like, oh, I'm not doing the right thing, I'm problematic, I blah, blah, all those kind of things that you're going through, this sort of shame and fear and all that kind of stuff. And instead, right, like come into it, say, yeah, I'll write a book, whatever. It's no biggie. Write the damn thing, send it to self-publishing, and then, yeah, 5 people are going to buy the damn thing, right? Like, yeah, but that's not the point of it, right? The point is not that outcome that you're going to get where there's going to be, in your mind, right? Like we all think like this. In our mind, we're going to send 10,000, sell 10,000 copies. In reality, you're going to sell 5. And then, so in your mind, right, you get into the prep zone where you're like, my mom's going to buy it. I ain't probably going to buy it because I wrote the damn thing. So I might sell like maybe 1 copy. That's fine. Right. And that's where you got to be in your mind of like, don't judge how things turn out by the outcomes that you actually get. And then maybe by the time you've done this 5, 6 times and you practice, maybe at that point, things change. Right. And maybe at that point, a publisher reaches out to you because you have a track record of doing this thing. Or it becomes a little easier because you have an audience or something like that. But in the meantime, like, stop it, right? Like, stop being so afraid of doing something or setting yourself up and saying, I don't have time to do this because, all these kind of things, or, I say yes too often. You're judging yourself by how everything turns out. And there's lots of social structures that exist that will prevent you from ever having something turn out in the way that you think about it in your mind. And then, the other thing is that there's lots of like lucky things that happen, chance randomness things that happen. And then on top of it, you're not going to do it if you set yourself up in your mind that it's got to go in this certain way. So if you're just like, yeah, it'll be fine, right? Like, you will do it, right? Like, with a lot of stuff in my mind and what I do, I would never accomplish most of the things in my life. I wouldn't. And that's like big and small, right? If I started thinking about like, oh, I'm not good enough with this. I like exercising today. I was kind of feeling guilty because I slept in. I had a craptacular sleep last night. I was doing vacation planning yesterday. I spent the whole day in the computer, so I had a craptacular sleep. And then I was thinking about it all night of like, what are people going to say? You know, what's the environmental cost of this? What's the cost of this? It's really expensive. Like all these kind of stupid things that you think about at 3 o'clock in the morning that flash into your brain. And you get all this anxiety, panic attack things. So yeah, I was up in the middle of the night and I had to sleep in this morning. Well, because of that, I sort of missed the opportunity to work out this morning. And so now what I'm going to have to do is find a little window throughout the day and it'll be fine, right? Like I was like, oh, I'm not going to have a good workout. It'll be fine. You get to do the things. Maybe I do some push-ups for 15 minutes. That will be good enough, right? Like, one particular thing, that is good enough. All of that is perfect. I go for a walk. That is good enough, right? Instead of thinking about all these things where you set yourself up, you're never going to do it. I just walk up and down the stairs a couple times. Good enough. All those kind of things. You got to think about in your mind of getting away from things have to be perfect before you do it. Um, and then if things don't go the way that you thought they were going to go, you are perfectly fine too. You probably did it. You were excited about actually doing it. Well, that's it. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day.